In today's episode, the Jets get optimistic about Aaron Rodgers, Fred VanVleet rips a ref, and a wild finish in college basketball. But we begin today with a report in the Arizona Republic that the Suns are concerned that Kevin Durant might miss the rest of the regular season after slipping on the court in warm-ups last night and perhaps sustaining a grade 2 left ankle sprain. The Suns were 3-0 with Durant. They won last night's game easily against Oklahoma City without him. But Wilbon, if Durant is out 4 to 6 weeks, where does this leave your Suns?
I hope I'm wrong, Tony, but probably at home fairly early, given who you could play in the first round, even if you're the 4th seed with home court. You know, yesterday I told you 24 hours ago there was delirium here in the desert. Now there's just devastation. I mean, people are watching this on television. They're getting ready for the home debut of Kevin Durant, or they're watching it in person, and all of a sudden your phone starts to light up if you're not watching because Kevin Durant has gone down in a heap. You just saw it. And I know in my case, you know, I got to consult in all things injury and medical with Dr. Jason, who's the Sun season ticket holder. And the words from his text were, I want to be wrong with 4 to 6. And I'm like, no, you got to be wrong. You can't have this. Because 4 to 6, Tony, the Suns needed all the time they had with Kevin Durant. So those 16 games, or whatever's remaining, you need those with Kevin Durant to get him incorporated. You don't just walk off the street and win an NBA championship. And so now that's what we're talking. Even if he could come back for the playoffs, we're talking about chance. And it's just, wow. It's devastation.
Yeah. I'm happy to know that for every team you care about, like the Bulls and the Bears and the Suns, you have people who text you immediately with medical opinions. I admire that. I think that's great.
Yes, Dr. Jason, thank you.
My takeaway from this, first thing was, it's unbelievable how snake-bit Kevin Durant is. It's unbelievable. He can't get out of his own way. There's no contact on this. He just goes down on the ground. And the last few years, as great a player as he is, he can't get on the court. If you remember, he tore his Achilles in the playoffs when he was with Golden State. He left Golden State to go to Brooklyn. He took that injury with him. Mike, this is not analytics. It's just numbers. He has played in 129 games of 291 he's been eligible for in Brooklyn. That's 44%. And Anthony Davis, 44. Anthony Davis plays in more than that. And he goes here, right? They're 3-0 on the road. He doesn't even get to play in Phoenix when this happens. I will say this, that everything I said about Phoenix when they got him, I believe is completely true. I have to probably take it back, that within a week and a half, they'd be the best team in the West. I think they were, and now they're not. They traded away depth to get him because if you have him on the court, you don't need depth. Okay, and now they don't have him on the court. They don't have him.
No. Tony, this is the sport you don't win in without your best player. We've seen this time and again and again and again. You don't do that. And so now you're going to wind up, people are going to question the trade. What's the window of opportunity? What happens next year? Can you bring everybody back whole? It's just a mess off a slip. Yeah. A slip on a wet spot on a floor.
The only thing I disagree with you on is I believe that Kevin Durant, in fact, can parachute in and be great right away, because I thought he was in those 3 games. We move now to Fred VanVleet's stirring oratory last night. After his Raptors were beaten by the Clippers and VanVleet had gotten teed up along the way, he had a few choice words about official Ben Taylor. Let us all watch and listen.
I mean, I don't mind. I'll take a fine. I don't really care. I thought, Ben Taylor was fucking terrible tonight.
Wilbon, what is your reaction to this?
You see my reaction. You and I have been covering the NBA for respectively 40 and 50 years. You and I have heard this and seen this. Sometimes a guy would say it directly to our faces back before, you had all these fancy press conferences with lecterns and tables and microphones. We've been hearing this forever. Now, in this day and age, oh my God, he's lucky David Stern is not the commissioner right now, but he's still going to get hit hard. Fred VanVleet, who is expressive. Fred VanVleet, he's probably in my top 10 interviews in the league. Just a guy you want to listen to and talk to. Oh my God, did he go off-road on this one. He's going to get fined. But you know what, Tony? And I hear from older players and former players that the communication between refs and players on the floor isn't what it used to be. I hear that all the time, and this would speak to that. He kind of speaks to it himself. There seems to be a bigger problem than just what happened last night with Toronto in this game. But, wow, this is an age-old. Remember when Tim Duncan got thrown out because he laughed at Joey Crawford? And John Barry and I went to the officials' dressing room, and we said, Joey, I know how much you love Joey Crawford. And we said, Joey, why did you throw Tim Duncan out the game? And he said, because he was laughing. And it just, this is part of the yin and the yang for players and coaches, players and officials in that league.
Yeah, so the first thing that struck me about VanVleet was how remarkably composed he was as he said these things. Let us take the wider view here. The wider view, I find myself agreeing with him 100% on the fact that people go to games to see the players and not the refs. I agree with him on the fact that a referee, if they want to, can change the entire dynamic of a game. I can't comment on Ben Taylor because I don't know Ben Taylor, but much of what VanVleet has said here would be shared by 90% of the players who honestly believe that if there were no refs, the game would be just as good. Right. VanVleet stood up and he said, I know I'm going to get fined. And I agree with you, he's going to get fined. But I'm going to go a step further. If there were a living, breathing commissioner in the NBA, he wouldn't just get fined. They'd sit him down for a couple of games because he attacked the integrity of the entire system. And the way that we know there's not a living, breathing commissioner at the NBA right now is because he hasn't said anything about Ja Morant. He hasn't said a word about that. VanVleet went off on this guy. He said it's personal, and he went off on this guy.
Let me ask you this real quickly, Tone. Do you think this could be the impetus to have like a summit? To say, we've got a bigger problem here. We've got to address this now. Maybe even before we get to the playoffs, because we can't have this.
I suspect, as you suspect, that so many players feel that way. And the lack of anger with VanVleet indicates to me this is a common feeling.
Yes, it is. Woo! Let's move to the National Football League, where the Jets meeting with Aaron Rodgers earlier this week appears to have gone well.
If this happens to the Packers, it's not going to be nearly as devastating as a lot of people are going to say, because they're sick of the drama with Aaron Rodgers. It's years of this, and they don't care. And you get to see Jordan Love. And if you recall, when Aaron Rodgers came in after sitting on the bench behind Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers was great. So you get to see if Jordan Love is great or not. Where does it leave the Jets? It puts them in a position for 1 or 2 years to be absolutely great. It's the same thing as Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay. I mean, they could be great. It would give them credibility at the quarterback position that they haven't had in a long time. You might want to argue, Mike, that they had a little bit with Chad Pennington or with Ken O'Brien or with Mark Sanchez. I'd go all the way back to Namath, and I'm going back 60 years. I mean, this gives a little. This gives the Jets a certain amount of hope. But, you know, like they say about the Jets, they got everything but a quarterback. Be wary of what you wish for. They said that about Denver, and they got Russell Wilson, and the team stunk. So,
well, you know why I think the team stunk. Tony, I hear you about Green Bay. I mean, Green Bay, you drafted a guy 3 years ago. What the hell? You moved up a little bit, a few picks to get him, unimportant.
Yeah.
You drafted the guy you wanted. You scouted him all year. You got him, play him. I thought the Packers were fairly gutless for not playing him last year, and Rodgers didn't do anything last year for Green Bay. So they could have played him last year. The draft pick was 3 years ago. Where does it leave the Packers? It leaves them back in the pack with the Bears and the Lions and the Vikings. And I don't know. That's something that I'll get real interested in. Most people will not. The Jets, I think, is probably being wildly overstated, how good they'll be, how instantly credible. I think it'll be wildly overstated. I hear this now. And I know Aaron Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer. But
yes, he
what is he, 38, 39?
39.
I mean,
39,
is he going to be
39.
Brady for Tampa? Maybe he will be that, and it won't be overstated. But
let me just say this. Aaron Rodgers is not Sam Darnold, and he is not Zach Wilson. They were whispers. Aaron Rodgers has done this. He's a promise. He's not a whisper. And at least it gets people talking about the Jets, as you say, the team of my youth. They're within shouting distance of the Giants. And they're never usually even within shouting distance. Let's go to the big finish. Lonzo Ball might need a third surgery on his left knee. Oh, my. What are your thoughts?
Now, that's despair in Chicago. And there are people who have said this year he may never play again. I hope that diagnosis is wrong. Shohei gave up just one hit, struck out 5 in 4 innings against China. I know you're impressed.
I'm impressed, and you know what I want? I want to see Japan play against the United States and Shohei pitch against Mike Trout. Everybody wants to see that. Dylan Brooks and Draymond Green have been taking shots at each other. They play tonight. What do you expect?
I don't care about their beef. I want to see the Golden State Warriors look like champions on the road. 5 straight at home, so what? Win a game on the road. Colin Morikawa, my man, shot 7 under at the Players. Give him some dap now, dap him up.
He's not even leading with 7 under. That's really something. Rory was +4. I guess it's not one of those, no-cut limited field events, is it? Last one, North Carolina, number 13, Virginia tonight. Who you got in your house?
If Virginia's going to make a run, beating Carolina would be a nice place to start it tonight in the ACC tournament.
Your house is a who's house, isn't it? It really is. We're out of time.
Yeah.
Trying to do better the next time.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.